Somewhere right now, a clock is ticking inside the home of someone you know, maybe inside your own. It makes no sound. It has no face, but it is counting, second by second, how much of your freedom is being traded away for things you barely even notice anymore. Some people live beside this clock their entire lives without ever hearing it run, until the day it stops. And on that day, there is nothing left. And some people, somehow, learn to silence it. They discover, long before any crisis hits, the secret to making that clock run backward, building up time instead of losing it. Both of these people could earn the exact same salary. They could live on the exact same street. From the outside, they could look completely identical, but one of them is about to run out of time. The other is quietly building decades of freedom without anyone ever noticing. Today, I'm going to show you the clock that's running inside your own home right now, and the 10 rules that decide whether it runs against you or for you. Hey, welcome back to Megan Carter Finance. If this is your first time here, I'm Megan, and this channel exists for one reason: to help you build real financial security without pretending you need a 6-figure salary to get there. I've lived both sides of that clock, metaphorically speaking. I've lived the version where every dollar disappeared before it even landed in my account, and I've lived the version where money finally started working for me instead of against me. And the difference was never income. It was the 10 rules I'm about to walk you through, one by one, today. Before we get into it, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. I post videos like this every single week, breaking down exactly how regular people build real wealth quietly, without flashy lifestyles, lucky breaks, or 6-figure incomes. And if anything in this video hits home for you, even just a little, do me a favor and smash that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need to hear this. And here's something fun I love doing on this channel. Drop a comment below telling me what city and country you're watching from right now. I read every single one, and I love seeing just how global this community has become. Whether you're watching from a tiny apartment in Sao Paulo, a flat in London, a dorm room in Manila, or your childhood bedroom in Ohio, I want to know that you're here, watching this with me. Okay? Let's get into the rules that quietly separate the people who always seem to have money from the people who never do, regardless of what number is printed on their paycheck. Let me start with a concept that is going to reframe how you think about every single purchase you make for the rest of your life. Everything you own costs money twice. The first cost is obvious. It's the purchase price. It's the number on the receipt, the number you swipe your card for, the number you see on the screen when you check out online. But there is a second cost, and most people completely ignore it, and it is often larger than the first cost by far. The second cost includes storage, maintenance, mental energy, and opportunity cost. That treadmill you bought back in January requires space in your home. Space costs money, roughly $30 to $50 per square foot annually in most urban areas. A treadmill takes up about 20 square feet once you account for the clearance space around it. That's $600 to $1,000 a year in implicit rent you are paying just to store a piece of exercise equipment that probably holds laundry most days of the week. The second cost also includes maintenance and upkeep. That boat sitting in the driveway needs winterizing, cleaning, registration, insurance, and occasional repairs. The industry rule of thumb suggests annual maintenance costs run about 10% of the boat's total value. A $30,000 boat costs $3,000 a year just to exist in your driveway, even if it never once touches water. I'm not done yet. The second cost includes mental energy too. Every single item you own occupies a small slice of your attention. It needs to be cleaned, organized, maintained, insured, worried about, and eventually disposed of. Researchers have found that visual clutter increases cortisol levels and reduces the brain's ability to focus. Your stuff is literally stressing you out in ways you cannot consciously perceive every single day, and we're still not finished. The second cost includes opportunity cost. Every dollar locked up in possessions is a dollar that is not invested. That $15,000 home gym equipment setup could have been $15,000 in index funds, growing to $50,000 or more over 15 years. You didn't just buy a home gym, you bought a home gym instead of your own future financial freedom. When you add up all of these hidden costs, many possessions actually cost more to own than they ever cost to buy. The purchase price is just the entry fee. The ongoing costs continue for as long as you possess the item, quietly in the background for years. Minimalists understand this intuitively. They are not avoiding possessions because they hate nice things. They are avoiding possessions because they have calculated the true cost and decided that most things simply are not worth it. This leads us to rule number 1. Calculate cost per use before any purchase. Before buying anything, estimate how many times you will realistically use it. Divide the total cost by that number. This gives you the cost per use, which is honestly the only fair measure of value. A $200 jacket worn twice costs $100 per wear. A $400 jacket worn 200 times costs $2 per wear. The expensive jacket is actually cheaper in any meaningful sense. This calculation destroys most impulse purchases almost immediately. That $300 kitchen gadget you'll use twice a year costs $150 per use over the first year. That is an obscenely expensive way to accomplish whatever small task it performs. Meanwhile, a $30 tool you use every single week costs less than 60 cents per use over that same first year. Cost per use also reveals which purchases are genuinely worthwhile. A $2,000 mattress used every single night for 10 years costs about 55 cents per use. That is extraordinary value for something that affects your health and your energy every single day of your life. A $1,500 espresso machine used daily for 5 years costs less than $1 per use, likely saving you money compared to constant coffee shop visits. The math here cuts through marketing, emotion, and social pressure, and it reveals what actually makes financial sense versus what just feels appealing in the moment you're standing in the store. Rule number 2. Apply the replacement test to everything you already own. Walk through your own home and look at each item you possess. Ask yourself one simple question. If this item disappeared today, would I actually spend money to replace it? Be honest with yourself here. Would you really go buy another fondue set? Would you replace that bread maker collecting dust in the cabinet? Would you repurchase those clothes you haven't worn in 18 months? For most items, the honest answer is no. You would not replace them. They exist in your life through inertia, not intention. They were impulse purchases, gifts you felt obligated to keep, or remnants of past hobbies and phases you've already moved beyond. These items carry negative value. They cost you space, mental energy, and ongoing maintenance without providing any corresponding benefit in return. Every single hour spent organizing, cleaning around, or even just thinking about items you wouldn't replace is an hour stolen from activities that actually matter to your life. Minimalists ruthlessly eliminate items that fail this replacement test. They sell what has real value, donate what someone else could genuinely use, and discard what serves absolutely nobody. The process feels uncomfortable at first, and then it feels deeply liberating once it's complete. The psychological weight of owning things you don't want or need is substantial, even if you've never named it as weight before. Removing it creates a kind of mental space that's difficult to describe, but immediately noticeable the moment it's gone. Rooms feel larger, decisions feel simpler. Cleaning takes half the time it used to. You know exactly where everything is, because everything that remains has an actual purpose. Rule number 3. Never upgrade out of boredom. There is a pattern I see constantly among people who earn really good incomes, but have almost nothing to show for it. They upgrade perfectly functional items simply because they're bored with them, or because a newer version exists somewhere on a shelf. Their television works perfectly fine, but the new model has slightly better contrast. Their phone operates flawlessly, but the new release has a marginally improved camera. Their car runs reliably every single day, but the New Year's model has updated styling. Their furniture serves its purpose completely, but they've simply grown tired of looking at it. These upgrades feel like improvements in the moment. They are actually wealth destruction, quietly disguised as progress. Minimalists maintain a strict, almost rigid policy here. Never replace something that still functions properly. The phone that makes calls, sends messages, and runs your apps does not need replacement just because a newer phone exists in a store window. The car that reliably transports you every day does not need replacement just because your neighbor bought something shinier last month. This policy alone saves enormous sums of money over a lifetime. The average person replaces their phone every 2 to 3 years, often while the previous phone still works perfectly well. Over 30 years, this pattern alone costs $30,000 to $50,000 in completely unnecessary purchases. Applied across every category where this upgrade culture operates, the lifetime waste easily exceeds $200,000. Minimalists escape this trap by defining functional very clearly. An item remains functional until it genuinely fails to serve its actual purpose. Boredom is not failure. Desire for novelty is not failure. The mere existence of a newer alternative is not failure. Actual mechanical breakdown, or a genuine inability to perform the task required, is failure. Everything else is just marketing, convincing you to solve a problem you never actually had. Rule number 4. Create friction for spending and ease for saving. Human behavior follows the path of least resistance every single time. If spending is easy and saving is difficult, you will spend. If saving is easy and spending is difficult, you will save. Minimalists engineer their entire environment to make the right choice the easy choice, almost automatically. Spending friction looks like removing stored credit card numbers from online retailers, requiring a 24-hour waiting period before any non-essential purchase, deleting shopping apps from your phone entirely, unsubscribing from promotional emails, and avoiding stores unless you have a specific, intended purchase already in mind. Saving ease looks like automatic transfers to investment accounts on payday, keeping only small amounts in your easily accessible checking account, making investment contributions happen before you ever even see the money land, and treating savings like a fixed expense rather than an afterthought you'll get to eventually. These structural changes matter far more than willpower ever will. Willpower depletes throughout the day. Your environment stays constant. Someone relying purely on willpower to avoid impulse purchases will eventually fail when they're tired, stressed, or emotional. Someone who already deleted the shopping apps and removed their saved credit cards simply cannot impulse purchase in that moment, no matter how they're feeling. Minimalists don't trust themselves to consistently make good decisions under pressure. They design systems that make good decisions automatic instead. The 24-hour waiting rule alone eliminates roughly 70% of impulse purchases. Most desire for an object fades within a single day if you don't act on it immediately. Rule number 5. Count your possessions regularly. This sounds obsessive until you actually try it for yourself. Counting forces awareness. Awareness prevents accumulation. Pick a category. Count exactly how many items you own in that category. Write the number down. The numbers often genuinely shock people who've never examined their own consumption patterns this objectively before. How many shirts do you actually own? Most people guess low, and then discover they have 3 or 4 times what they originally estimated. How many kitchen gadgets do you own? How many pairs of shoes? How many items are sitting in your junk drawer right now? How many books will you never actually read again? The count itself changes your behavior. Once you know you own 47 shirts, buying another one feels completely different. You're not adding a shirt anymore. You're bringing your collection to 48. The absurdity of it becomes visible, almost immediately. Minimalists track key categories over time. They set maximum thresholds for themselves. Perhaps 30 items of clothing total. Perhaps 15 books at any given time. Perhaps a one-in, one-out policy, where any new purchase requires removing something that already exists. These constraints prevent lifestyle creep before it even starts. Without intentional limits, possessions naturally expand to fill all available space. With limits in place, each addition requires a conscious decision about exactly what it's replacing. That small friction alone dramatically reduces total acquisition over time. Rule number 6. Rent or borrow before you buy. Most items people purchase get used intensively for a short period and then rarely touched afterward. The excitement of newness fades quickly. The initial enthusiasm decreases. The item quietly joins the collection of things owned, but seldom used. Minimalists test this exact pattern by renting or borrowing before ever committing to full ownership. Want to get into camping? Rent the equipment for your first few trips. Want to try woodworking? Borrow tools from a friend or use a local makerspace. Want to try kayaking? Rent several times before you ever purchase your own. This approach accomplishes two important things. First, it reveals whether the enthusiasm is genuine or just temporary. Many interests fade quickly after the initial exploration phase. It's far better to discover this while renting than after purchasing equipment that will collect dust indefinitely in your garage. Second, it clarifies exactly what you actually need. First-time campers often buy too much gear or buy entirely the wrong things. Renting lets you learn before you commit to anything. When you eventually do purchase, you buy precisely what's necessary, rather than guessing. The buy-first mentality costs people enormously over their lifetimes. Closets and garages across the world contain dusty remnants of abandoned hobbies, ski equipment from the phase when they thought they'd ski every winter, photography gear from when they imagined becoming a serious photographer, music equipment from a band that played exactly 2 shows before disbanding. Minimalists avoid becoming museums of their own past enthusiasm. They test interests thoroughly before ever investing real money. They maintain the flexibility to explore freely without the long-term burden of ownership weighing them down. Rule number 7. Understand the lifestyle multiplier effect. Every possession you own connects, in some way, to other possessions. A boat requires a trailer, a hitch-equipped vehicle, storage fees, maintenance supplies, safety equipment, and appropriate clothing. A purchase that seems completely singular actually triggers an entire cascade of supporting purchases behind it. This is the lifestyle multiplier effect. Major purchases multiply quietly into entire ecosystems of related expenses. The true cost is never just the item itself. Watch how this plays out with common purchases. A home gym requires flooring, mirrors, storage solutions, ventilation considerations, and often renovations just to make the space usable. A pool requires chemical supplies, cleaning equipment, covers, furniture, maintenance tools, and often landscaping to complement the entire installation. A motorcycle requires gear, storage, maintenance equipment, and often a truck or trailer just for transportation to riding locations. Minimalists calculate the full ecosystem cost before any major purchase. They know that a $5,000 purchase might actually represent $8,000 or $12,000 once all the multiplier expenses are properly included. This full accounting often transforms what seemed like a reasonable purchase into something clearly excessive once you see the whole picture. The multiplier effect also works powerfully in reverse. Eliminating one major possession often eliminates an entire category of related expenses along with it. Selling the boat means no more storage fees, no more insurance, no more registration, no more maintenance, no more towing costs. The savings extend far beyond the value of the item itself. Rule number 8. Define enough before you start earning more. Here's something that traps high earners constantly, without them even noticing. They never define what enough actually looks like, so they keep purchasing more and more, without ever arriving at any real satisfaction. Their income increases, so they upgrade their lifestyle. The new lifestyle becomes the new normal, so they need another income increase just to feel any sense of progress at all. This cycle continues indefinitely, often for an entire career. People earning $300,000 often feel just as financially stressed as people earning $80,000 because their expectations and expenses expanded right alongside their income every single step of the way. Minimalists break this cycle by defining enough before they ever start earning more. They decide in advance what kind of home is genuinely sufficient, what kind of car actually meets their needs, what level of material comfort constitutes real satisfaction for them personally. Then, they earn toward that defined target rather than constantly moving the goalpost further away. This might mean deciding that a $350,000 home is enough, even if you eventually could afford $600,000. It might mean deciding that a $30,000 car is enough, even when your colleagues are driving $70,000 vehicles. It might mean deciding that your current wardrobe is genuinely enough, even as your income could easily support constant upgrades. Defining enough creates an actual finish line. Without it, you're running an endless race where lifestyle expansion always outpaces your income growth, no matter how much you earn. With it, you eventually reach a point where additional income flows entirely towards saving and investing, instead of more consumption. The person who defined enough at $60,000 of annual spending and then started earning $150,000 builds wealth at an extraordinary rate. That $90,000 difference between income and enough goes directly toward financial freedom every single year. Meanwhile, someone earning that exact same $150,000 but constantly redefining enough upward might end up saving almost nothing at all. Rule number 9. Measure wealth by optionality, not by accumulation. The conventional view measures wealth by what you have: houses, cars, possessions, visible markers of outward success. Minimalists measure wealth completely differently. They measure it by what they can choose. Can you leave a job that's destroying your mental health? Can you take 6 months off to handle a family emergency? Can you move to a new city for a relationship? Can you start a business without any guaranteed income? Can you retire before 65? Can you say no to opportunities that pay well, but compromise your actual values? These options represent true wealth. They are only available to people who've already built substantial margin between their income and their expenses. The person earning $200,000 but spending $195,000 has almost no optionality at all. They're chained to their income requirement, no matter how impressive that income looks on paper. The person earning $80,000 but spending only $45,000 has extraordinary optionality. They can absorb disruptions, take real risks, and make choices based on genuine preference rather than financial necessity. Minimalists understand that real optionality requires liquid resources, far more than it requires physical possessions. The money tied up in a car you don't actually need is money that can't buy your freedom when you actually need it most. The home equity locked into an excess house is equity that can't fund a career transition or an extended sabbatical when life calls for one. This perspective transforms every spending decision you make. Each purchase isn't just exchanging money for an object anymore. It's trading optionality for possession. Is this item genuinely worth reducing your ability to make free choices about your own life? Sometimes, yes. Often, no. Rule number 10. Practice cyclical decluttering rather than annual purging. Most people who attempt minimalism do one massive purge, feel great for a few weeks, and then gradually accumulate right back to their original starting point. The purge itself feels productive in the moment. The gradual reaccumulation goes completely unnoticed, day by day. Within 2 years, they're right back where they started, as if nothing ever changed. Minimalists avoid this exact pattern through cyclical decluttering instead. Rather than one annual massive purge, they perform small, regular reviews, weekly glances at incoming items, monthly evaluation of one specific category, quarterly assessment of their overall accumulation trends. This cyclical approach catches accumulation early, before it ever rebuilds to an overwhelming level. Removing 3 items a week is manageable and genuinely sustainable. Removing 300 items once a year feels overwhelming, and it often gets postponed indefinitely. The cyclical approach also maintains real awareness over time. When you evaluate your own possessions regularly, you start to notice patterns. You see which categories tend to grow the fastest. You identify which emotional states trigger acquisition in you, specifically. You recognize which marketing tactics actually work on you. This awareness enables genuine prevention, rather than just treatment after the damage is already done. Let me give you a practical way to implement these rules, starting today. This week, walk through your home with the replacement test in mind. Identify 10 items you would not replace if they disappeared. Sell them, donate them, or discard them. Notice how it feels to remove things you don't actually want in your life. This month, implement the 24-hour rule for every non-essential purchase. Track how many of your purchase desires survive that waiting period versus how many simply evaporate on their own. The data will reveal exactly how much of your spending is impulsive rather than intentional. This quarter, count your possessions in 3 categories that tend to accumulate the most. For most people, clothing, kitchen items, and media or entertainment are useful starting points. Set a maximum threshold for each category based on what you actually use in real life. This year, define what enough genuinely looks like across every major spending category in your life. What home is sufficient for you? What transportation is adequate? What wardrobe meets your genuine needs? Write these definitions down somewhere you'll see them. Refer back to them whenever temptation arises to exceed your own personal standards. The financial transformation from these practices compounds significantly over time. Someone who applies these rules consistently for 5 years accumulates substantially less while saving substantially more. The gap between their lifestyle and their actual income creates a kind of wealth that simply cannot be built any other way. Remember that clock I told you about at the start? The one ticking inside someone's home, counting down their freedom in silence? Here's the part nobody tells you. You decide which direction it runs. Every single rule in this video is really just one decision, repeated over and over again. Spend less than you make, and the clock runs backward, quietly stacking up months and years of freedom while you sleep. Spend everything you make, and it runs forward instead, counting down toward a day you don't see coming until it's already here. The woman whose clock runs backward never had a bigger paycheck. She had clarity about what she owned, what she actually needed, and what enough really looked like for her own life. The woman whose clock runs forward never had a smaller one either. She simply never stopped to ask the question, and the clock kept ticking without her, year after year. Right now, somewhere inside your own home, that clock is running. You cannot stop it, but you can decide, starting today, which direction it moves, toward freedom or away from it. The math says backward. So does your peace of mind. If this video gave you even one thing to think about today, subscribe to Megan Carter Finance, drop a like, and tell me in the comments, what city and country are you watching from? I'll see you in the next one.